Hey, it's Ocean Green here. Welcome back to Zero Proof Home Bar. Thanks for joining me. I am here with something interesting I saw at the supermarket today as I was shopping. It is the St. Ivy Gin and Tonic. And this is a brand with a few other cocktail-inspired sodas. They are 0 calories, so they're not sweetened. They have a Moscow Mule and a Mint Mojito. This one is gin and tonic. And I think it leans into the tonic, the quinine part of it, with some bitterness. I don't know if the other two take it in a different direction, so it'll be interesting. So I'm gonna give this a try on its own, and then I made up a simple little sort of Spanish-style gin and tonic with some botanicals in it to see if that would accentuate it. So, as I said, this is 0 calories, which is interesting. I've tried some other cocktail style sodas before, and I've liked some of them. Not so much. This is a very simple thing that it's trying to imitate here. So really what it has to get right is the juniper. So let's see what they get. There's a surprisingly decent nose. I'm getting a lot of citrus, orange, lime. It says it has coriander in it. I think there may be a little hint of that in the nose, but it's not a spicy nose. It does remind me in the smell of the Everleaf Marine that I've also, I think, reviewed on the channel. I wasn't the hugest fan of that product, but it's not bad. It's interesting for a soda, for a smell anyway. Yeah, pretty flavorful. It definitely tastes like a flavored tonic. Good and interesting flavors. It has a lot of sage, actually, to me. Kind of reminds me a bit of the Pentir Adrift or the Everleaf Marine in certain ways, but a lot of bitterness, a lot of the quinine bitterness, and those citrusy notes coming through. I do get a bit of the juniper. It's a little bit, evergreen, kind of, piney kind of a flavor, but it's not the most forward and dominant flavor, and that's what I would really want in a gin and tonic oriented soda. Now, my understanding is that juniper in particular is kind of difficult. It's not very soluble in water. It's much more amenable to being extracted in alcohol. So gin works very well. You put some juniper berries into some alcohol and you basically have, gin, a very simple gin. Whereas trying to get the juniper flavor into a non-alcoholic product, into water, is very challenging. Even de-alcoholizing, I think, tends to kind of remove some of that. The oils in it just aren't very soluble in water. They tend to, anyway, to separate. So I'm not getting as much of the juniper as I would like, but I do like it. And it's particularly interesting that it's very dry. It has no sweetener in it, whereas most tonics do have a bit of sugar. So Fever Tree, Q, your better tonics, and obviously, Schweppes and everything else, they all have sugar in them. And that is part of the experience of the tonic. I'm wondering if they're not using sweetener here in order to emulate a bit more of that alcohol sort of bracing intensity, where it doesn't have the sweetness and it kind of bites a little bit more. The quinine bitterness is a little bit more intense as a result of that. I don't know if that was the right choice or not. I'm sure they tested it with sugar and decided this was the way to go. I do wonder sometimes with these products whether they are going without sugar for a more sort of like, health-oriented type of thing. I'm more interested in flavor, so if adding a little bit of sugar might have made it better, then I would have been wanting to do that. That said, obviously, if you wanted to do that, you could add a little bit of simple syrup. And I think the next thing to try is to put it into like a Spanish-style gin and tonic and see how it is in sort of the best possible circumstance, which is to say that I've added some extra botanicals that hopefully will accentuate these flavors, etc. I'm having it over ice, so this is more of like a typical serve that you might have. I've got a lemon peel in here. I've got a little rosemary sprig that I kind of crushed up a little bit to give it some aromatics, and then I lightly crushed some juniper berries. Juniper berries are very easy to get and really contribute nicely to a Spanish-style gin and tonic, where you add botanicals in. Obviously, you can add anything in to accentuate the flavors that you're interested in, but I hoped that this would bring out the juniper. So let's see how it is. Yeah, it's nice. It's more complex. And I would even say that sitting with, pouring it over ice, getting a little bit of dilution sitting there, kind of softens the whole thing a bit, takes some of the quinine bitterness and kind of rounds it out a little bit, gives you some more of the botanicals. I'm getting a good amount of the lemon, which is not surprising. Lemon oil definitely tends to dominate. at times. I'm getting not so much of the rosemary. A little bit of the juniper as well, but I would say less of the juniper than I would like. Given that we're starting with, you know, a product, you know, starting with a soda that doesn't really have as much juniper as I wanted in the first place. I was hoping this would bring a little bit more, probably coming back to that same problem I was talking about of juniper just not being all that soluble in water. But it's an enjoyable experience, and I would say that as long as you're not trying to compare it 1-to-1 to a gin and tonic, an alcoholic gin and tonic, it's probably a very enjoyable thing to sip around the pool on a hot day or something like that. In particular, over ice in this sort of Spanish style, I think it would be a nice kind of refreshing thing. It, as I said, tamps down some of the bitterness of the quinine, but still keeps that bite. Yeah, I think it, you know, makes a reasonably enjoyable non-alcoholic, you know, kind of cocktail style things to sip on. But by no means is it a replacement for a gin and tonic. And I'll also, as I said, I have had some other cocktail-oriented soda products that I've liked a bit more. So I'll try to get to some reviewing some of those on the channel soon. I might try some of the other products here as well. One other thing I would mention is this would make a great just a tonic to use in cocktails, especially where you didn't want the sugar that's in a lot of other tonics. There are light versions of tonics that Fever Tree and other companies have. This has, I mean, no calories. I don't know if it has, I don't even think it has any sugar replacements or anything like that. So really no sweetener of any kind. So if you want a drier tonic, this is basically tonic with some flavors in there as well, as I say, the citrus and whatnot. But it's basically a very dry tonic, so it might be useful in a cocktail application. And it would be kind of amusing to put this into an actual gin and tonic with some real gin as well, and maybe accentuate all of that with a very dry effect. But I do typically tend to like a little bit of sweetener in my tonic, so that's my preference. But I'd say it's worth a try. It is a little bit expensive, as many of these products are. I think this was maybe $11 or $12 for a 4-pack. But as a fancy tonic, you know, it kind of is in that ballpark. And it does have some additional interesting flavors and whatnot. So fun to play with, but not my highest recommendation, I would say. Worth experimenting with, but not a home run. So that's all I've got for now, but I do have some more tastings coming soon and some recipes and hopefully some other fun stuff. So I hope to see you again soon. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying what I'm bringing to the channel, and that's all for now. Thanks. Bye. Cheers.